Hello. How is everyone? Happy Wednesday or whatever day it is when you're looking at this. Sorry, I'm gonna make myself a little more visible, maybe. There we go. Hi, I'm Keith. I am your meditation teacher here on this channel. This channel is Meditation Breaks, and just like you might have imagined, on this channel we learn how to meditate. And more than just learning how to do it, we learn why. Why does this thing help us? How does it benefit us? Is this something you should incorporate into your self-care routine? Is it, worth making it a permanent practice for you? All those questions that you might be wondering if you're new to meditation, this channel is hopefully going to help you answer a lot of those. And because those are the types of questions that we answer here, we tend to spread it around the different styles of meditation. Right? Sometimes we do breathing meditation. Sometimes we do meditation on interacting with an object, right? But all these things are meditation, right? So if you're like, well, I just need to know the basics, you're in luck. Every class we start with a kind of introduction to meditation 101, if you will. And then we will move on to a little discussion on a particular topic that is related to meditation. Right? So that's our cadence. We generally do that each week. Before we get started with kind of introducing meditation, I'll just say that if you have any questions at any time, or a comment, or sometimes I mumble, like, hey, I didn't catch that. But I think I just mumbled right there. You can use the chat feature and ask me. You don't have to wait for me to be like, oh, does anyone have any questions? You can just ask whenever. And as soon as I see it, I'll do my best to answer it in a helpful way. If you do not want to use the chat feature, or you think of something that you wanted to ask after I've gone bye-bye, I'm going to give my email out towards the end of today's session, and you can email me anything that comes up or any questions that you have. All right? Cool. So, when we are first introduced to meditation, I'm trying to think of maybe what would be the first thing we'd like, oh, meditation, what is that? Probably in this day and age, we're doing a Google search, right? And so my first results of that Google search are countless images of people sitting on the floor with their legs crossed and their arms like this, their eyes closed. And it's always such a wonderfully lit room. Shiny wood floor. This is what we instinctually associate with meditation, because that is what I'll refer to as our generic image of that activity. When your mind thinks of an activity, it kind of produces this generic image of what that is. It's happening so fast we don't know, but our generic image of meditation is sitting down, cross-legged, arms, whatever. And so we can start to get into the habit, it's a word we'll be talking a lot about today, of viewing meditation as that thing. In order to meditate, I have to sit down, cross-legged, with my arms in a specific position, etc. This is not true. That is a seating position, and some traditions of meditation use that seating position formally. But meditation is not a seating position. And so if that image, sitting down cross-legged with our arms like this, is not meditation, then what is? On this channel, I like to posit. Is that the right word? I don't know. I like to define meditation as a technique you can use to become really familiar with something. And this is going to be a really important definition for our discussion topic today. Meditation is a technique you can use to become really familiar with something. Well, what does that mean, right? When we are talking about meditation, we are talking about mental, usually, like thought-based things. And we don't go around saying, I'm familiarizing my mind with how to pick up this cup. That's not what we're saying to ourselves. We're not even thinking that. But that is what's happening. Right? All the things that we do, all the thoughts that we think, they all are based in this concept of familiarization. Right? So if we think about something that we're really, really, really familiar with, I like to use the example of tying your shoe because most of us are pretty adept at this point. Tying your shoe is easy for you, right? Barring some sort of a physical ailment. You can tie your shoe without much effort. If I were to say, hey, tie your shoe, you would be able to do it pretty easily. You can, I bet, probably tie your shoe with your eyes closed at this point in your life. I bet you can tie your shoe hanging upside down. That's hard. That requires core strength. Oh, I don't have that. Oh, thank you, Aventurine. That's so nice. I appreciate that. All of us, for the most part, I will say, we're expert shoe tires. We have not always been that. There was a time in our life where we did not know how to tie a shoe. I know it's hard to believe at this point, but it's true. When we were born, we didn't even know what a shoe was. We didn't know anything about taking a single string and making a supportive knot. That also looks elegant. We didn't know how to do any of those things. And so when somebody said, hey, Keith, here's how you tie your shoe, first time it didn't come out that well, right? We made a knot, right? We don't know where to pull it. We don't know how to wrap the two loops or whatever. The point is, the only difference in between us being seemingly incapable of tying our shoe and now being able to tie our shoe with our eyes closed is what? Practice, habit, familiarity. Right? The output of familiarity is that the activity or thought or whatever that we're familiar with starts to show up more regularly. We have to, it requires less concentration, right? Kind of like second nature. And this is true, not just for tying your shoe. It's true for everything in your life, right? The way that you walk, the way you think. You've been driving a car for a while. You don't, first time I drove a car, I was like, wow, there's a lot of buttons in here. Now I don't even think about that, right? So familiarity is a massive part of your life. And our topic today is going to be really honing in on that. And it is a core tenet of understanding meditation, right? So, meditation is a means to start to choose what you want to be familiar with. What kind of things do you want to be so familiar with that they show up with less effort? So take relaxation. It's the major entry point into meditation. And we can often think, well, meditation relaxes me. When I meditate, I am relaxed. So meditation relaxes me. But actually, what's happening is not that. Meditation does not relax you. Meditation teaches you how to become familiar with relaxed you, the version of you that is relaxed, that already exists. If we think about times that we've been, our calm, cool, collective self, it's in there, right? We want it to show up more, sure. That's why we're here doing this. But it's not something that needs to be created. It already exists, right? Meditation is a conduit for becoming so familiar with being relaxed, for example, that now that starts to be your kind of default. Relaxed you starts to show up with less effort, right? Same as tying your shoe, learning to walk, learning a language, all of these things, they all follow the same cadence. So that is what we are doing here with meditation. We're learning how to choose. We're learning how to choose what our mind thinks about, what our mind becomes familiar with. And when we start learning about meditation, very often we start with breathing meditation. If you've ever meditated before, it's probably been that. There's a lot of great reasons why we might start with that. Personally, I think it's really wonderful to have something that is really accessible. Your breath is always with you. We don't need to go to a mountaintop. We don't need to leave our friends behind for a month retreat. We don't need to do those things. We can, but they're not required for us to meditate, for us to learn how to use this technique. Right? Your breath is always with you. And so we're going to start with a little breathing meditation. And all meditation, whether it's breathing meditation or walking meditation or whatever, it all follows the same 3 steps. Right? Step 1 is we actively choose to focus on something. And by this, I mean, we're like making a promise to ourselves, setting an intention. Keith, am going to focus on my breath for the next couple of minutes to the best of my ability. All right. We're setting this kind of idea in our head. That way, when our mind drifts, which it does, our mind is always thinking, we know what we're trying to do, right? We have a promise to ourselves. We aren't following all those thoughts indefinitely, right? So, step 1, we choose to focus single-pointedly on something. Single-pointedly, meaning just this thing, right? 2, we actually do it, right? We are going to focus single-pointedly on our breath, paying attention to what it feels like to breathe in and out, moment by moment, and I will be leading this. You will not be on your own here, right? So choose to focus single-pointedly on something, actually do that, focus single-pointedly on it, right? And then we pay attention to when our mind drifts, right? Heidi, yes, it is. I use Eventbrite as like a means to like let people know that I'm doing this, but I do it on YouTube. So if you enjoy yourself, you can just come to my YouTube channel instead of going to Eventbrite. Thank you. It's a good question. I know it's a little confusing. Okay, so while we are focusing on our breath, anytime you notice that your mind is starting to maybe think about other things, oh, what do I do for work tomorrow? Or, oh, what was that sound? Right? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Whenever we notice that, we're just going to say not right now to those thoughts. That's our saying here. Not right now. Those thoughts aren't bad. They're not intrusive. They're not unwanted. They're just thoughts. Thoughts are thoughts. Just not now. All right? Taking ownership over our thinking. And then the final step, the third step, is when we recognize that we've drifted in that way and we've said, not right now, we purposely bring our attention back to breathing. Cool? Choose to focus single pointedly on something, in this case, our breath. Notice when your attention drifts away from that thing, bring your attention back. That's it. 3 steps. And we're using our breath here, but you could very easily do these steps for anything, right? Brushing your teeth. I'm going to focus single pointedly on how the bristles sound against my teeth. And whenever I notice that I'm thinking about, I don't know, whatever we think about when we're brushing our teeth, I'm going to be like, yep, right now, I'm focusing on the sound of the bristles on my teeth. It's the same thing. It's not like breathing meditation or sitting down and doing this is any better. It's all good. Cool? Patricia, yeah. So yeah, and we're gonna talk about I'm glad you brought that up, because we're gonna talk about that a lot today too, because realizing that we have the capability to do this with all the things we already have is really cool. And it takes a while to kind of find the value in that sometimes, but once you do, it is empowering. It's really cool. Awesome. Okay, let's do some breathing meditation. So we're going to do exactly what we just talked about, those 3 steps. You may notice I am not sitting on the floor. I am in a chair. You too can be in a chair. You can sit on the floor if you like that. You could sit in a hammock. That would be awesome. Yeah. One day I will do a live stream from a hammock. Mark my words. You can lay down. You had a long day. Go ahead and lay down. Right? Doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. Just get comfy. You can go ahead and close your eyes. That helps with some of the visual distractions that tend to crop up. And we're going to do about a 5-minute breathing meditation. Okay. Whenever you start a meditation, it can be helpful to take a moment and check in with yourself. Ask yourself, what is my mind up to right now? What does my mind feel like? Is your mind very busy? Or is it kind of relaxed? Does your mind and body feel tired? Maybe you had a long day. Or are you feeling mentally alert? Physically energetic? Whatever it is perfect. We are not trying to change anything about how we are feeling in this moment. We are just noticing. Taking an interest in our own mind. This is a technique known as mindfulness. Probably heard that word before. Mindfulness is an active awareness of your own thoughts on a moment-to-moment basis for the very specific purpose of being able to respond skillfully to those thoughts. Checking in is our first line of defense. Having taken a little time to check in with yourself, you can now make a promise, set an intention, and that promise, that intention is for you to focus single pointedly, exclusively on your own breath for the next couple of minutes to the best of your ability. That's it. Let that idea sit in your mind. Introduce yourself to that idea. This is your only task. All other things can wait. For the next couple of minutes, it's just you and your breath. And with that intention set, that promise made, you can act on it. You can turn your full, undivided attention to your own breathing, following each breath in and out very gently, very naturally. You don't need to alter how you breathe here. No need for big, deep inhales or forcefully exhaling air. However you normally breathe, whatever comes naturally to you. That's what I want you to do. In and out. Very gently, very naturally. As you begin to settle into your seat, at some point while you are doing this, you may notice your attention drifting, no longer being exclusively focused on your breath. It's kind of splitting time, juggling a bit. Maybe you're also starting to think about what you need to do later after this class is over, or tomorrow. Or maybe you're thinking about something that happened earlier today. Whatever it is, whenever that happens, whenever you notice your mind drifting in that manner, we can just say, not right now, to those thoughts. We'll get to them later. Actually imagine yourself picking up those thoughts, placing them beside you, where they are waiting patiently. And with those thoughts waiting patiently beside you, you can turn your full, undivided attention back to breathing in and out, gently, naturally. Single pointedly focused on each moment of each breath. You breathe countless times a day. And of those countless times, almost none are we paying attention to fully. What would it be like to pay attention to our breath on a moment-to-moment basis? Every time you breathe in, can you imagine, watch that air slowly leave the atmosphere, being pulled into your body? Can you feel that air move through you, settling into your lungs? Feel your chest expand to make room, your shoulders rise, feel the energy that you get from breathing in. What about when you breathe out? Can you follow the air? Feel your chest contract, your shoulders fall. Feel your body gently push that air back through the same way it came, out into the atmosphere. Can you watch as that air mixes with all the other pockets of air dissipating? Breathing out. So many interesting sensations, feelings, intricacies for each breath. This is happening all day long. When we choose to focus on it single pointedly, we start to find some subtleties, some subtle interests. We start to become interested in breathing. Breathing in, breathing out. Very gently, very naturally. This process of choosing to focus single pointedly on your breath, noticing when your attention drifts, being able to guide your attention back to your breath. That is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind to tap into its natural peacefulness. You're training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. And right now, the only thing that you want to focus on is breathing in and breathing out very gently and very naturally. For the last few moments, just enjoy sitting here with your breath. That's it. Take a little time for you. Okay, whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hello, welcome back. Congrats, you did it. You are a meditator. um, 3 steps, right? Now, that doesn't mean that it's like, super easy, Um, and a lot of times when people start meditating, they realize, like, man, my mind is super busy. Like, my mind is bouncing all over the place. I guess I'm not good at meditation. And this is completely untrue. Meditation is not about never getting distracted. That is not the goal. Meditation is about noticing when you're distracted so you can choose to do something about it. And so if you notice that your mind is busy, you're actually that's actually great. You're noticing maybe, for the first time, how naturally busy your mind is. That's the most important thing to notice. Cool. So that's breathing meditation. If you have any questions on it, feel free to ask me. I'm going to move on to our little topic for today, and then we'll do another short meditation after. Cool? Okay. So last time we met, we talked about labeling, right? This idea of labeling things, good, bad, I like this, I don't like this, that kind of thing. This week, I want to talk about how habit, like habitual thinking, doing, influences or leads to our perspective on the world around us, right? Or the things we interact with. Because there's a pretty interesting relationship here. And I think to Patricia's point, like realizing this sometimes sparks like like an aha moment. Sometimes they say, like, oh, I had never thought of it that way. Right? That's kind of what we're after here. We're not trying to cure all of our problems. We're just trying to be like, that's an interesting way of thinking about that. Because that is the catalyst that leads to some really wonderful change. Cool? Okay, so if we're going to talk about habit and habitual thinking and doing and whatnot, we got to first think about, well, what is a habit? What does that word mean? Right? Not trying to be cheeky, but it's something you do habitually. It's something that you do often and without much effort, right? Like if you have a habit of doing something, it kind of becomes second nature, right? What does that sound like? Familiarization. We just talked about that, right? How the more familiar we are with something, the more kind of readily it shows up without as much effort, etc. This familiarization is another kind of word for habit. Right? Habit is really the product of familiarization. Right? So habit is kind of like familiarization times 100. I don't know if that's scientifically accurate. I just pulled that number out of nowhere. But when we're really familiar with something, really familiar with something, it starts to become habitual, right? So what kind of habits do we have? I'm going to use me as an example, but most of these don't apply to you, but you think about your own. But so I bite the inside of my lip a lot. You're going to learn some wonderful things about me today. Isn't that great? So I guess I don't know if it's like a nervous habit or like what, but I bite the inside of my lip. I have been doing that so long that I very often will be doing it and not even know. My mind has become so familiar with using that as a coping mechanism or whatnot, that it's as if my mind and body can do this thing automatically while I'm doing other stuff, completely unfazed. Whoa. Right? That's a habit. Now that probably comes across as not a great one. But there's other habits like are not good or whatever, bad. It's just, they just are. Like, I sleep on my back. Actually, this is so weird. Guess what? You're going to learn something weird about me. I sleep on my back with my hands like this. Don't know why. It's so weird, like I'm a vampire, right? I don't know. That's just habit. It's just I've been doing that. I don't know when it started, but I've been doing it for so long. I just like naturally go into that position. All right. I eat with my right hand. Right. Now, this is an interesting one because I eat with my right hand because my right hand is my dominant hand. Yeah, idea now. I always tell I always like it looks like I'm like in a crypt. It's so weird. I don't know why I sleep like that. Bizarre. Um, I eat with my right hand because my right hand is my dominant hand. Right? But I can eat with my left. It's not like my left hand is incapable of using a spoon. But as somebody who has broken their yes, golf and sleep, as somebody who's broken their right wrist multiple times, I have had to learn how to eat with my left hand, and it's not easy. Don't eat soup. If you break your dominant hand, stay away from soup. That's going everywhere. But over time, I became a little bit better at eating with my left hand. Not to the point where it's the same as my right. Why? Because I use my right hand to eat all the time, right? Pick things up, all this stuff. My right hand is so familiar with doing those mechanics. Familiarization. Right? I could train my left hand to do that, right? But currently, I have formed a habit of using my right hand. Cool. There's literally 1 million habits that we all have. And it would be quite boring for me to sit. I don't know. Maybe you're going to get interesting, all these weird things about me, but we all have different habits, right? And when we think about habits, a lot of times we think of them in terms of like physical actions, biting my lip, sleeping on my back, eating with my right hand. But we develop mental habits as well. And this starts to tie into what I'll refer to as perspective, right? A habitual way of thinking or viewing a situation, object, or whatever, right? All right, time to learn something else weird about me. Great. Many of you probably know this. I have a very bad, like I guess you would call like a phobia or anxiety about itching. There, I said it. Now, for most of you, I would imagine that when you get an itch, this is what happens. Right? And you move on with your life, right? When I get an itch, my mind starts to spiral, right? It starts, when will this go away? Like, I don't like being itchy, like all those kind of things, right? For me, my perspective is that itching is worrisome. That's my perspective, right? And that perspective was formed, and continues to be formed by habit, right? I was not born thinking itching is worrisome. I don't even know what that word meant when I was a baby, right? It was just a sensation that I didn't have a label for, right? And the first time that I ever felt an itch, I did not go down a rabbit hole of worry. Honestly, the first, I don't know, probably 100,000 times I had an itch in my life, I didn't do that. But at some point, my mind kind of developed a perspective that itching is not great. I don't like it. And over time, that was reinforced, right? My mind reinforced that over and over and over and over again. to the point where my mind now is so familiar with thinking itching is worrisome that even just thinking about it makes me slightly uncomfortable. Wow. So habit is powerful. Familiarization is powerful, and it starts to mold us into the person that we think we are, right? I view myself as someone who is an anxious person, but that's not really true. I have moments of worry and whatnot, but all these things are learned behaviors. Right? So perspective, if if habit is like familiarization times 100, is that what I said? I think so. Then perspective is like habit times a million. I don't know. Terrible. This is not scientific. But perspective can accelerate our habitual thinking, right? For example, picture this. I'm walking down the street. Do 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 do. That's what I do when I walk down the street. I go do do do. And a stranger says something rude to me. Okay, so this is the situation. A stranger says something rude to me. Cool. This kind of situation, I am viewing it in a specific way based on like the learned behavior, the habitual thinking I have developed throughout my life. So let's look at that situation and see if we can find anything interesting. Heidi, thank you for the sub. That's really cool. I appreciate that. Okay, stranger. A stranger says something rude to me, right? So the first thing is stranger. Our kind of like tolerance for things is different depending on the relationship we have with the person doing the thing that we're tolerating, right? Like if our best friend is like, it's such a pain, we're like, we're like laugh it off. Because we have like a relationship and we know they're probably kidding and they're just like saying like, but if a stranger goes, hey, you're a pain, we're like what? Dude, that's really rude, right? It's the exact same situation, but it's influenced and viewed differently. The perspective is completely different depending on our relationship with that person. So a stranger says something rude to me, already that first word is something that is being influenced by my habitual thinking. This person is a stranger to me, and so I have less tolerance for that. But, I mean, that's just my formulated opinion. Like, there's no reason why I should have any less or more tolerance for that. It's the same situation. Okay, so stranger says something. This is interesting too, because a lot of times strangers probably think something about us, but we don't care, right? But if they say it, rude, right? So here, there's a discrepancy between if something is verbalized or like something is thought. Right? Says something rude. Now, this is the real big, this is like the big meat and potatoes of this example. Something rude. What is rude? Each one of us has developed a very unique rubric of what is rude and not rude. Somebody saying something to you might be viewed by you as not rude, but if they said it to me, I might be like, that's rude. So rude, this concept, is like not a thing. It's just a label. It's been kind of habitually imbued upon different situations and things, right? This word, rude, is like not really real. Rude is, words are words. Whether or not something is rude or not, it takes us, our perspective, our kind of like learned behavior to imbue that on words. And then finally, to me, stranger says something rude to me. Oh, this is a big guy, right? So when people say things rude to us, we do not like that. But if they said it to another stranger, we'd probably be like, well, that was not great, but glad they didn't say that to me. Or something like that, or like we don't even like hear it, or like I mean, even sometimes we laugh, right? So there is a difference. Our perspective is influenced by this habit that we've formed, that the things that happen to me are more potent than the things that happen to others. So here's this little sentence. A stranger says something rude to me. A little situation that we are kind of imagining in our mind. Dude. Yeah, man. Love that, dude. How you been? It's been forever. So like this little sentence has so much habit built into it. And we don't really ever think about these things. We kind of just go through life, and somebody says something to us and like, we're like, that's rude. You're rude. I don't like you. But really there's a lot more nuance to that, right? Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe we actually did something not great. I don't know. Maybe they are saying something rude, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that person's just rude, period. And this is like now their identity for us forever, right? This little sentence, if we start to unpack it, we start to see that there's a lot of nuance. And this technique is what is known in kind of meditation land as wisdom, right? Wisdom here we'll define it as knowing the way things are versus the way that they appear to be. Knowing the way things are versus the way they appear to be. This person says something rude to me. It appears that this person is rude. It appears that the thing they said is rude. And it appears that it is extremely potent. That's how it appears. But is not the way things are. There's more nuance, right? So thinking about the nuance of things in terms of how our habit and our perspective plays a role in those situations is really cool and really helpful. And the next time something happens, the next time somebody says something rude to me, I'm going to create a little more space between myself and my reaction, right? I'm going to think about it a little bit more. Maybe I'll come out with a different perspective. Maybe not. But this type of thinking, I think meditation is really good for. And we're going to do a little thinking meditation now. Cool? All right. So we're going to do a little meditation to close out our evening together. And it'll be somewhat similar to the last time. But I'll add in some of the things we just talked about with like habit and perspective. Cool? Okay. Get comfy again. Maybe you're like, wow, Keith's been talking a really long time. I'm tired now. You can go lay down. Right? All right. Close your eyes. And just take a moment to check in with yourself. We're not comparing it to before. Before is done. Just right now, in this exact moment. What's your mind up to? And having checked in, we can once again make a little promise to ourselves, an intention. And that promise, that intention, is to focus single pointedly, exclusively on our own breath for the next couple of minutes. Let that promise sit in your mind. And then, with that promise firmly in your mind, we can act on it. Turn your attention to your breath, breathing in and out very gently, very naturally. Smooth, gentle breathing. No need to change anything about how you normally breathe. In and out. At some point, you will likely notice that your mind is drifting a bit, no longer single pointedly focused on your breath. Your mind has developed a perspective that thinking about a lot of things is better than thinking about one thing. And this perspective is formed through habit, both by our own doing, the world around us, encouraging multitasking. But focusing on one thing has its benefits too. And so when you notice your mind beginning to drift, beginning to revert to multitasking, we can just say, not right now. Can imagine putting those other thoughts beside us. And then purposefully guiding our attention back to your own breath. Breathing in and out gently, naturally. Breathing is not something that we generally think of as interesting. We breathe countless times a day, and of those countless times, almost 100% of them, we are not paying attention to breathing at all. We have developed a habit of having our breath be in the background. And through that, we've developed a perspective that it's not that interesting. But if we put our breath into the foreground, if we focus on it single pointedly, we start to find some interesting things about breathing, things that were always there, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be enjoyed. Maybe you're noticing how the air feels cool temperature wise every time you breathe in. You can feel that coolness on the tip of your nose. How interesting. And that same air, when we breathe out, it feels warm. We can feel the warmth gently blowing against our skin. How interesting. Maybe you're noticing how your body participates in your breath, not just your lungs, but every part of you, your shoulders rising and falling. Chest expanding, contracting. All the little subtle movements of your body as you breathe in and out. How interesting. Meditation, single pointed focus on something, very often leads to us finding subtle interests about that activity, about that thing, about that situation. How amazing that you can find interest, joy in something as simple as breathing in and out gently, naturally. Just for the last few moments, sit there with your breath, single pointedly focused on it. Enjoying all the subtleties of breathing in and out. Okay. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hello. Welcome back again. So that was the same thing that we just did, right? The only difference is we've kind of like layered on some thought, right? Some kind of, just like we took that sentence and started to like analyze it a little bit. We're doing breathing meditation and then we're analyzing, oh, like it's interesting how I'm noticing different things when I'm single pointedly focused on breathing. It's not like those things are being created. They've always been there. Cool. Okay, that's it for today. Sorry, I kept you late by 1 minute. Oh, I got to give my email. Okay, couple things. One, thank you for everyone who subscribed during the live stream. Heidi, thank you. And anyone else that I missed, and also anyone that chooses to do so later, really does mean a lot to me and helps other people discover meditation. So thank you for that. If you had a good time, come on back next week. We're going to do another meditation. I don't know what it'll be. We'll do it, but it'll be a topic on meditation for sure. And if you are interested in doing a one-on-one, a private instruction, I do that all virtually, or you just have a question for me, or you just want to say hi, I'm going to give everyone my email right now, and you can email me for any of those reasons or any other reasons. My email is keith@meditationbreaks.com. keith@meditationbreaks.com. I'm getting good at typing this. All right. I don't want to jinx myself, but all right, there we go. That's my email. Feel free to email me any questions you have as you're meditating on your own, or if you want to do a one-on-one. Fees, they are a pay what you want. It's like a pay whatever you want situation. So you don't have to. We can do it. It can be free, whatever. I understand everyone has different situations, and I do this for just to try to help people. Not so I understand there's different situations around. All right. Cool. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day for being here. It means a lot to me. I love teaching. Couldn't do that without you guys. Everyone take care. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.